If you struggle to feel 100% beautiful without makeup, if you constantly compare the way you look to the way other people do on social media, or if there's things about the way you look that you genuinely just don't like and wish you could change, I'm going to explain something to you that is going to make you wake up tomorrow morning and every morning after that, look in the mirror and genuinely love everything that you see. We're wasting no time today, so let's just go ahead and get straight into the intro. Right? Subscribe! I love you guys. So I'm going to preface this topic by just saying being beautiful is something which is completely subjective. There's no test to show if someone or something is beautiful or is not beautiful. It's literally down to the person you ask. Okay, now keeping all of that in mind, the most important thing here is the way that you feel. So it's about you feeling beautiful. I'm talking about genuinely looking in the mirror and thinking, I love that hook of my nose. I love the shape of my lips. I love the fact that my face isn't completely symmetrical. All the things that you would normally think are the reason as to why you're not beautiful, I want them to be the things that you look at and say, that's what makes me beautiful. It's not in spite of those things I'm beautiful, it's because of those things. They're going to be adding to the fact you feel beautiful. You're going to be admiring those things and honestly just genuinely loving those things about you. That's what we're going to talk about, and I'm going to show you how we're going to achieve that. So your own personal idea of what is and isn't beautiful comes from your surroundings. When I say your surroundings, I mean the media, I mean modeling campaigns, I mean social media, I mean pop culture, I mean filters and Facetune. Literally everything you're surrounded by, just your entire environment. You are seeing all of that, and whether you know it or not, subconsciously, that is contributing to the way you define the word beautiful. Whether you personally think that someone or something is beautiful or isn't, is actually being determined by everything that you're surrounded by. All right, let's take an example of trends, because trends are a really good way to demonstrate this. Let's take the makeup trend of wearing a lot of blush. Back in the day, wearing a lot of blush was not seen as a good thing. It was like, that's like an old school thing. It's more about bronzer. People would skip blush entirely or just put a little bit where it wasn't really that visible. Now, in the last couple years, blush has become such a positive, trending thing when it comes to doing your makeup. People wear so much blush now, and it's thought of as actually making your makeup better. A lot of people don't even feel cute if they're not wearing a lot of blush. Now, the only reason why so many people feel that way, that their makeup doesn't look totally good or that they don't feel totally pretty with their makeup if they're not wearing a lot of blush, is because wearing a lot of blush has come back in fashion. It's become a trend. Now, whether you wear a lot of blush or not when you do your makeup, you still look beautiful. Your makeup still looks fire. The only reason why you don't feel like that when you don't wear a lot of blush is because you've been influenced by your surroundings, you've been influenced by the trend, and the trend comes from your environment. It comes from pop culture, social media, all of those things I named. That's where it all stems from. But somehow that has made its way into your brain and it's affected the way that you feel about yourself and the way you look. Do you ever look back at old photos and think, oh my god, what was I thinking? Why did I do my hair like that? Why did I make my brows so thin? Why did I make my brows so thick? At the time, you felt beautiful in that. Your hair, your eyebrows, whatever it is that you look back at now and you kind of cringe at, you liked it at the time. And it's because it reflected your own definition of beauty at that point in your life. You look at it now and you don't feel like that anymore. And that is because your own perception of beauty has changed. It's evolved since then. It's changed just as your surroundings have changed, as pop culture has changed, as social media has changed. Your own perception of beauty is all in your mind. Now, with your mind, there's your conscious mind and your subconscious mind. Your subconscious mind holds so much power. I've touched on this before, and I'll touch on it again. So without you even realizing it, your subconscious mind is absorbing everything from your surroundings, and it's actually affecting the way you see and define yourself. Now, the reason why this is important to understand is because once you realize this, you understand that whether you see yourself as beautiful or not is all in your control, because the definition, your own definition of beautiful, is determined by you. Just because you don't look like social media's definition of beautiful right now, or a modelling campaign's definition of beauty right now, or pop culture's definition of beauty right now does not mean that you are not beautiful. Just because that's your environment's definition of beauty right now doesn't mean it's the right definition, because it's subjective. You also need to remember that society's idea of what beautiful is, society's definition of what beautiful is, changes all the time. That's why I kept saying right now, because it has changed so much. Back in the day, being really slim and skinny and having a thigh gap was seen as beautiful back in the day. Now, it's done a complete 180, it's totally changed. When you are thick and when you're curvy, that's what's seen as beautiful now, because it's all a trend and it's changed. If you look at it like that, someone who was really curvy probably didn't feel that beautiful according to society's standards back when having a thigh gap and being really skinny is what was universally seen as beautiful. And likewise, someone that's now very slim, skinny, has a thigh gap may not feel that beautiful according to society's standards, because being curvy and being thick is what is appreciated as being beautiful right now. That's the reason why you look back at old pictures and feel differently about them now than you did at the time, because your idea of beauty has changed over time, just as everyone else's idea of beauty has changed over time. Your definition of beautiful and your surroundings' definition of beautiful, your neighbour's definition of beautiful, a modelling campaign's definition of beautiful, everyone's definitions of beautiful are ever changing. They never stay in one spot. So don't feel the need to conform the way you look to fit everyone else's idea of beautiful right now, or your own idea of beautiful right now, because everyone else's is going to change and yours is going to change too. So you don't have to change yourself to fit that, because it's going to change. I live in London, I live in the UK, been born and raised here, lived here my whole life. And here, Eurocentric features are what is deemed as beautiful. And that makes sense because my surroundings are the UK. So it makes sense that the beauty standards fit that Eurocentric look. Alright, now think of it like this, yeah? My ancestors are from India. My features reflect my ancestry. My features reflect my Indian ethnicity. But my surroundings, which are feeding my subconscious and have been my entire life, is the UK. So because of that, as an Indian woman living in the UK, it's unlikely the society I'm surrounded by is going to make me feel beautiful. Because I'm not in India. I'm not in a place where my kind of features is what's appreciated. I'm in a place where Eurocentric features are appreciated, which makes sense because we're in the UK. But that distance that has been created by me being an Indian woman living here is what creates the issue. That is what makes it so difficult to feel beautiful for a person of colour living in the UK. So the more your features reflect your non-British ancestry, the harder it might be for yourself to feel wholeheartedly beautiful living in the UK, surrounded by UK culture. Now the problem is we don't see it like that. We see it as, everyone says that is beautiful, and I'm not that, so I'm not beautiful. And that narrative is what is so damaging to the way we see ourselves and our beauty. When you've been born and raised somewhere that doesn't match where you're from, everything that you're constantly shown from when you're a kid as what is beautiful isn't going to reflect the things that are unique and beautiful about you. So it makes so much sense to be a person of colour living in somewhere like the UK and struggling with accepting the features that make us look different. The hook of your nose, the bushy eyebrows, the unibrow, whatever it is. Because growing up, it's always felt like our surroundings have told us, you're not that. You're not beautiful. But that's not true. We are just not the surroundings definition of beautiful. It doesn't mean you're not beautiful. You just don't match their definition right now at this point in time. And why would you? Because you are not somewhere where the way you look is going to be appreciated like that. We are forever comparing the way we look to the people that look beautiful according to UK culture. And you know what? I've always been irritated by the fact that in the media and whatever, the people of colour that have been deemed as beautiful and are kind of like seen as really attractive always tend to have a skin colour that reflects their heritage, but their features are as close to British looking features as possible without being British. It's like their features have that Eurocentric look, but their skin colour doesn't, and that's why it's so easy for society to see them as beautiful. Anyway, my point is, You need to understand the kind of impact that your environment has on the way you see yourself, whether you realize it or not. Then once you realize how much your environment controls, it starts to lose its power over you. I'm going to tell you what actually motivated me to make this video in the first place. So when I went to Dominican Republic recently, I didn't put any effort into the way I looked at all. I didn't wear any makeup the entire trip. I didn't do my hair. I didn't pick out outfits. I didn't really think about the way I looked at all. I was just completely raw and just as I was. Also, I wasn't on social media. I literally just came on socials to upload my content that I had scheduled. I literally treated it just as work, upload my stuff, and then I left. I didn't scroll, I didn't look at anything. I was completely isolated from UK culture and social media. I was in Dominican, away from the UK and UK life, for about 2 weeks. And in that time, I got so many compliments from the locals telling me I was beautiful, and honestly, it was like the biggest confidence boost, and it did so much for my self-esteem while I was out there in terms of the way that I felt without makeup, you know, just naturally, like authentically within myself. Now at the time, all I thought that did for me was just boost my confidence and self-esteem in the way I looked naturally without makeup, without putting effort, which is lovely, you know. I took it as that and I was like, cool, I appreciate the fact that I had that. But then I realised when I came back home to the UK, I didn't want to wear big lashes. I didn't want to wear a full face of makeup. I was doing natural no makeup days or just light no makeup kind of looks. And that's actually when I felt the most beautiful. I wore a full face of makeup a few days later when I was going out somewhere. And I felt less beautiful when I put it on compared to when I had it off. I just wanted to take it off. I wanted to wear my hair naturally. And that was when I felt most comfortable, most beautiful, and most confident in myself and the way I looked. And that is what made me realise how big an impact our environment has on our own personal definition of beautiful. In just 2 weeks of being away from my usual surroundings, my whole definition, my whole perception of beauty completely changed. In just 2 weeks of being isolated from my surroundings in every possible way. I had been so heavily influenced by my surroundings and the culture that I was around, because that's what was feeding my subconscious, and that's what informed my definition of beauty. I had been so influenced by it and I hadn't even realised. I continued to feel that way for a while after I came back. But now, it's been a good few weeks since I've been back, and I've noticed that my own perception of beauty for myself has started to go back to what it was before. And it's so interesting to watch that happen as I start to get surrounded by my old environment again. And remember, this is all because your environment feeds your mind. So this should prove to you that whether you think you're beautiful or not, it is all decided by your mind. And if you don't take charge of that, if you don't actively admire all the unique things about the way you look and associate them with being beautiful, then your environment is going to take over. And that's going to control your own definition of beauty. It's going to be completely influenced by your surroundings. Unless you actively go against it, then it loses its control. When you're constantly in an environment that doesn't appreciate or praise your type of beauty, it makes it so much harder to see that in yourself. I know, I completely understand. But once you realise that all it is one society's definition of beautiful right now, it starts to lose its entire effect over you. Because like I said at the start, the only thing that matters is your own definition of beauty. It's subjective. So the only person you need to ask is yourself. Make yourself appreciate the beauty in your features, in your ethnicity. Once you feed your mind so much of that positive stuff, once you genuinely feel it and you believe it and you see that when you look at yourself in the mirror, your environment will stop having so much of an effect on you. And the things that used to affect you so much and used to have such a big impact on the way you see yourself won't have that control over you anymore, because you've taken control over it. Your environment is never going to make you feel less than, because your conscious mind knows what your definition of beauty is, and it knows that you are that. As soon as your conscious mind sees your beauty, you're sorted. I hope this brought some kind of fresh insight to you guys. I feel like perspective is everything. You guys know I've said that so many times in the past. The way you see something is so powerful. And I think sometimes understanding where beauty and the definition comes from really helps you to take charge of it yourself. It helps you to see that it's not what you think it is. It's not this one idea. And once you crush that thought in your head and once you replace it with a perspective which is actually healthy and positive for yourself, it completely changes everything. It completely changes the way you see yourself. So thank you guys so much for watching, for listening. I love you guys so much. Stay safe, stay smiling, stay positive, stay beautiful, because you are. I love you, and I will see you next week. Mwah. Bye guys.